including the new film tax credit and a new markets tax credit. Our budget is providing our cities and towns with new tools to bring new life to downtown centers. This budget accelerates the advanced energy component of the state's bipartisan job stimulus program by making $200 million available 1 year earlier. With all the talk about President Obama's stimulus bill, it's easy to forget that before it was popular and before it became partisan, we passed a bipartisan stimulus bill right here in Ohio to spur job investment and job creation in local infrastructure development and Ohio's rapidly expanding energy sector. Those resources right now are keeping and creating jobs that otherwise would have been lost during this recession. In fact, I want to share this news with you because I'm proud of it and you should be proud of it. According to Pew Charitable Trust report, which was released just a handful of days ago, a report on the clean energy economy, Ohio is now ranked 4th in the nation in clean energy economy jobs. According to the report, our state, thank you. According to the report, our state has seen a 7.3% rate of growth in clean energy jobs over the last 10 years. At least 35,000 Ohioans are now employed directly by clean energy jobs. You probably have heard, though, that I chose not to raise taxes in this budget, and I want to be very clear with you today why I made that decision. I didn't raise taxes because I think it would be wrong to do anything that would hinder our fragile economy's ability to recover during this time of such economic chaos. Taxing businesses and families that are already struggling for their economic survival would slow rather than spur an economy that is already on the ropes. So I was left with trying to solve a $3.2 billion deficit through spending cuts and other means. I made the extremely difficult decision to cut many worthy programs. I did that in order to protect direct aid to our local schools because I believe improving our schools is the single most effective thing we can do to attract new jobs to Ohio and prepare the next generation of Ohioans to fill those jobs. It is simple. In this emerging 21st century economy, jobs will go where the workforce is most educated, most creative, and most innovative. And that's why we are investing so heavily in K through 12 schools as well as our colleges and universities. Now, most importantly, you probably haven't heard that this budget includes the most far-reaching changes to our K through 12 education system in Ohio's history. First, our education plan establishes for the first time a constitutional way of funding our schools. My plan takes the evidence-based approach to determining the amount of money needed to meet the needs of our students to get the job done right. Research will tell us what makes up a quality education for all of our children. We calculate the cost of that education, and then the state fulfills its obligation to pay for it. Second, the plan institutes many groundbreaking reforms to improve the ways our schools work and to ensure that our young people are getting the best education possible. My plan establishes universal all-day kindergarten in all of Ohio's schools. It encourages a longer learning day for tutoring, studying, and other after-school activities. It expands teacher training and support. It will modernize and internationally benchmark our curriculum to make sure that our young people are still learning the basics like math and English, but also the skills they need for the modern economy, such as creativity and problem solving, innovation, business and technological literacy. And the plan aims to revolutionize how we educate our kids. Now, don't you think it's odd that some schools still teach the way we did more than 200 years ago? Students line up in symmetrical rows and a teacher talks to them for an hour or so on a particular subject. Of course, the best teachers and the best schools already know that that's not the best strategy, and they are already incorporating hands-on and project-based learning in their everyday activities. We need to make sure that that approach, an approach that teaches by asking our young people to creatively apply their knowledge to real-world problems, we need to make that approach the norm. And my plan mandates that. I believe we are one of only a handful of states in the entire country that are making these comprehensive education reforms during such a challenging economic time. Finally, the bill will increase accountability for all of our schools, public schools and charter schools. Our schools will be asked to show how they are meeting critical goals, and the state will be monitoring their progress. For the first time in our state's history, we will have a statewide fiscal report card system, a system that will enable us to determine the fiscal health of our school districts while providing educators the information they need to make the important fiscal and operational decisions required for our students. Now, we all know that Ohio's economic engine for much of the 20th century was driven by our dominance in manufacturing. For many, many generations, young people could graduate from high school knowing that a high-paying job awaited them at GM or U.S. Steel or at one of the thousands of other factories scattered across our state. Our schools, though not fairly funded, largely did a good job. Our colleges and universities were better than those in many other states. But we didn't invest in making our schools among the best in the nation. And we didn't encourage enough of our young people to continue on with their education after high school. Rather than making college more affordable in Ohio, previous administrations and legislatures cut higher education funding again and again whenever they ran into budget shortfalls. And this led to an average annual 9% tuition increase for the 10 years, every year for 10 years, in the 10 years before I became governor. Despite 4 Supreme Court rulings declaring Ohio's school funding system unconstitutional, previous governors and legislatures failed to significantly address the court's findings. Worse, no one in state leadership tackled the more important and perhaps more difficult task of trying to reform our 18th century way of teaching for the 21st century economy. Though there were some increases in school funding over this period of time, they weren't consistent, weren't funding what research tells us is most effective,